with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilmember Leach is absent. Approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? Council have any? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Brad. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes of the January 2nd, 2025 regular meeting. You all received them in your packet. Is there any changes or clarification needed within those minutes? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 2nd meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Brad. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. This brings us to our public open forum. Do we have anyone that wants to speak to the council? Anyone like to speak to the council? Call a third time. Do we have anyone that wants to speak to the council? Seeing no one, our public open forum is now closed. We have no public hearings. We'll then go on to reports and presentations. Police Department monthly activity report. Joe?
Alrighty, good evening, everybody. I got December 2024 stats. If you look, I think they got a little goofed up because the medical emergencies, we didn't have 89 medical emergencies in December. So I'm not sure where that's supposed to go in that list. So I can't tell you how many medical emergencies we had, but everything was kind of on par. 850 total for the month, which is about average for December. We had a few assaults, a couple burglary reports, a lot of citizen contacts, a few noise complaints again, and then we did a bunch of the winter parking was in there, a lot of warnings in December. We have been towing a few cars for repeat offenders here the last couple of weeks for that winter towing, or winter parking, and writing some citations as well, as far as that goes. With the snow now, people, like last night I looked, we only had one on the street last night that was on the street, so the people are pretty much figured that out. So yeah, everything's kind of lined up and on par with for December. Nothing too crazy. It's always a little bit quieter for us in December just because of the holidays and stuff. In other news, Landon, our new full-time officer, started today. So he's working right now, training with Officer Jungles. If you look further, you'll see, as you saw further in the packet there, we're going to retire out my canine partner, Sonny. When doing that, I went through and just pulled stats so you guys can get an idea of what we did over the last 10 years. We had 575 total deployments. Of those deployments, we found 2,779 pieces of drug paraphernalia. We seized 287 pounds of marijuana. We seized 36 pounds of methamphetamine. We seized 2.2 pounds of heroin, 8.3 pounds of cocaine, 570 tablets of ecstasy. We seized over 1,300 pills, which most of those were probably containing fentanyl. Those weren't tested. During those stops, 22 firearms were seized that led to arrests. We seized 36 vehicles, not only for our agency but other agencies, and we seized a total of just over $125,000 in currency from drug dealers. That those proceeds either went to our agency or other agencies. To kind of put in perspective of the total impact we made on the drug trade in the area, 1 gram of methamphetamine sells for about $100 a gram. There's 453 grams in a pound. So when you add that up, there's a pretty big impact there in the amount of money we took away from those drug users and sellers. So he will just staying at home with me and living a retired life in the garage. So, any questions on any of that?
I do. Can you go back to the beginning of your report? Because I was trying to write this down.
Sure.
And I was at about 287 pounds of marijuana, but prior to that, you said there was other things that would.
Yep, so, 2,779 pieces of drug paraphernalia. So that's
Paraphernalia. All right, thank you.
Needles, pipes, scales, baggies. So every time we deploy, I'd keep a spreadsheet of
Got
the
it.
number of items that we take. So, and we deploy, when we deployed, we did cases for BCA, DEA, US Postal Service, along with all of our local partners and stuff too. So we were busy, those first few years especially, we were busy. I mean, we were the only dog around, especially in that 2016, 17, we were the only dog team around within 50 miles. So we were busy, people were taking advantage of us. And it worked
What was Sonny's first year, Joe?
So we got him late 2014.
So you went on in service in 15?
He went into service, yeah, right at about 2015. And then this last, he was certified up until the end of this year. With my transition to this position, the last year here, we just didn't get as much work because we're focusing, and I had to focus on this stuff.
Yep.
Any other questions or?
Any other questions, concerns?
What's our long-term plan about bringing another K-9 into the service?
So like right now, Officer Moldenhauer has his dog that he does his service work with, his volunteer work with, Radar. So actually Radar works with Dan every night. We just took over the K-9 squad. So, and Dan's dog does human tracking and cadaver tracking. So we're working out pretty well where Dan brings Radar with, and the city's basically getting a free K-9 out of Dan right now because we got a track dog. It's a non-bite dog. It's just he just tracks lost people, air sends them. It's a really, really good dog. So that's the plan now for the next year or so, and then once Officer Moldenhauer retires here in the next year and a half, then I think we'll revisit it and see if there's a need at that time.
If someone wants.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works Department. Ben?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The outdoor rink, we did have to close that for a couple days during the warm weather around Christmas time. After the weather cooled back off, we were able to flood both rinks and got those back up in usable condition. So we are staffing that on the weekends yet, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We just got Kent started last weekend, so between him and Dennis, those two are working the weekend shifts down there and taking care of that. We do have the warming house open every day. Even though it's not staffed during the week, it is open and available for use for people to be in there. We had some plow truck stuff going on, our T2 plow truck. We had some depth sensor repairs that had to be completed. Those do have to go to a dealer. That's not something that we can work on in our shop just due to the computer software programs you have to fix those things. So we got that repaired, and then the radiator also sprung a leak. So our staff actually pulled that radiator, got a new one put in. So that one's back up and running and taken care of. Our 99 International, that's kind of like our snow hauler chipper truck. Fuel tank had a leak on that. We pulled it, had it welded up, repainted everything and got it put back in, so that was up and running. Did have a couple snow removal events over the past month. These do take several days to do a complete cleanup around town, so everything's been going smooth there with that stuff. Loader, one of the big cylinders on our case loader is getting pulled in for a rebuild right now, so that'll be back up and running before the next snowfall, hopefully. We've had a couple signs that have been hit. We've made some temporary repairs. Can't do anything permanent with the ground frozen right now, but they're all marked and we'll get them replaced in the spring once the ground thaws out. The brush pile, we did get that burnt down at the shop. That was substantial in size once again, so we'll have that cleaned up and emptied out for spring when people start hauling in again. The arena, that's very busy right now, 7 days per week. There's events happening in the building. The weekends are especially busy, typically 7 a.m. until 9, 10 o'clock at night, both days. Doing our weekly ice edging and building maintenance. There's always a list up there of stuff that we gotta get done. Senior Center, we did install some new equipment in the building there, and then we removed the holiday lights after New Year's was completed. So it's kind of the main things. Any questions I can answer?
Questions? Concerns? Thank you, Ben.
I do want to go back. I have a question for Joe, though, that I
Oh,
missed earlier.
Joe.
Joe, could I have you, I do have a question. I want to go back to
One
your
more
report.
question for you, I guess.
Sorry. I had made this note when I was reviewing the packet earlier, late last week. 10 years ago, we had 486 calls in 2014 in December, and we're at 850 now. Can you give us or give me an overview of what that significant difference in growth over that period of time is?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do, some of it has to do with how we're documenting. And 10 years ago, when we were doing some of that document, when we go out with people on the street late at night, we wouldn't document it.
Okay.
We started documenting a lot of our citizen contacts. Anytime the police come into contact with a person, there's a potential that we're taking away their freedom or they're not feeling likely to leave. So if we stop and we detain somebody, we're documenting why we're talking and detaining them. Especially with the traffic stops, especially with people walking at night, or if we see suspicious activity out and about. Another big reason of that is our big retail store in town. If you look at the numbers and when we start paying attention to what's going on at that retail store, that's a lot of police resources over there.
Yep.
Where it got to the point where now I mandate our officers to document their walkthroughs at night or during their shifts. And I mandate that they do at least once per shift because there's so many issues up there. So that's a huge part of it.
Okay.
And then just busier, we're busier. You look at the mental health calls and some of the things that we used to not have to respond to, that the public expects us to respond to now. Behavioral health, welfare checks, calls up at the hospital, those really increased over the last 10 years. So that's a big part of it too.
Can you tell me the difference in number of officers in 2014 versus today? Did we had 6 back then versus, is it 9 today or 8 or?
So in 2000, so we would had 6 then with probably 4 or 5 part-time officers at that time. Now we have 0 part-time officers and 9 full-time officers that include myself.
Okay.
So more officers on the street is going to lead to more contacts.
Yep.
And if you look at our burglary and theft numbers 10 years ago up until now, big decrease. So good there's some of those numbers aren't all bad things because some of those
Right.
more serious crimes,
Yep.
the burglaries, the thefts have gone down with the exception of our big retail store, those thefts, shopliftings have gone up.
Got it. Understood. Thank you. I wanted to ask you those when you were up here the first time. My apologies. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Airport Board. Vicky?
So the airport board met in regular session on Wednesday, January 8th. They did receive their report on public works-related activities at the airport, and also an update on the land acquisition project. And we're supposed to have an answer by the end of, he said he'd have an answer by the end of this week, but our end date is actually January 31st on that. So we'll hopefully have something back to the city council soon. They looked at the proposed hangar design for the 80 by 80 or 80 by 90 hangar grant project for 2025, which is something that we're working on. And also they adjusted the capital improvement plan. I believe they removed a project from it. They recommend the payment of the Stearns Electric invoice for the AWAS relocate. We're relocating the AWAS to allow for the hangar construction, and that is our responsibility to pay some of those costs. And also provided input on the 5010 MnDOT Aeronautics Inspection Report. So every 3 years, MnDOT comes out and inspects the airport. They inspect the condition of the runway, the taxiway, and everything airport related. And then we have to go through that and make updates and corrections. And pretty much everything we have completed that they're requesting that we complete. There's a few items this spring. And then we'll get that finalized and we'll be good until next time. I have no action items from the airport tonight.
Questions? Concerns? Okay, we'll move on to Operations Committee report.
So the Operations Committee met tonight before this meeting. They had 2 items on the agenda. The first one was to talk about the storm pond on 8th Street, which is actually an agenda item later, so we'll go into more detail then. And the second item that they talked about was the building project, building improvement for the arena and City Hall and other buildings. So I've got more detail on that later as well, so I'll go into it at that time.
Okay. Then we will move on to action items. 7A, approve resolution 2025-07, approving minor subdivision.
So Atwater Group, on behalf of Tractor Supply Company, they submitted their application for a minor subdivision to subdivide 4 acres off the 42-acre parcel next to Walmart. We do have the site plan and the civil plans for the structure. They've all been submitted for our review. The survey that corresponds with the civil plans were to be submitted prior to the meeting, but he didn't get them to me yet. So one remaining item to be completed is the easement from the Walmart parking lot past the driveway entrance into Tractor Supply. This part will be surveyed as part of the submittal with an easement in favor of Tractor Supply and the public. On that site plan that you have, that is that blue area. And as you know, coming across the front of Walmart is a public easement, 66 feet wide. It kind of goes on the south side of the bank, and that will be extended out to move past in front of Tractor Supply at this time. If you see on the site plan, they have future private roads in there. That one is, this plan is actually upside down. North is south and south is north. But the one road that would be between Walmart and Tractor Supply, you know, I had made an attempt to have them slide Tractor Supply over tight against Walmart. That's not what their plan is. The developer thinks that there'll be a future private road. I don't know that that'll happen or not. If not, he's just going to own it. The other road would be the east-west road, which would continue on. We're working with another party on a parcel beyond that. So the roadways have been an issue. This is not a plat, this is a lot split, so it's a little bit different about dedicating a road. So we have, tonight we had approval of that lot split if the survey comes in to match the site plan. Because it didn't come in, you do have the option of holding this off to the next meeting to verify it, or you could approve it conditional on it matching up with the site plan. So I do have the resolution on in your packet, and I guess I'm okay with doing it either route. The reason I had put it on here was they had hoped to close prior to the 1st of February, which our next meeting is February 5th. But if they don't have the submittal in and you're not comfortable with approving it yet, you know, I'm certain they would understand.
Comments? Concerns?
How long have they been working on this process?
3 years.
3 years? So,
I mean, it's been off and on, because they've changed different plans and different lead project managers.
the whole project is in the scope of the entire is 4 acres only?
The Tractor Supply portion will be 4 acres.
Only
yes.
4 acres of that 42 that's there?
Yes.
Okay. I personally don't have an issue with approving the lot split with the condition. I mean, I don't think we would want to certainly do it without a condition of the, you know,
That they match.
that they match, that the
Right.
survey and the,
Yeah.
match.
I would agree.
Okay. Well, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2025-07, approving the minor subdivision and with the contingency?
Also move with the condition that the survey and the, did you ask survey and
Easement language.
easement language match?
Right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any other discussion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7B, approve project list for building improvements.
This was the other item that the Operations Committee met on tonight. And if you know that previously the board looked at the types of projects that we should include in it, and so now we have preliminary estimates. Now we took that in front of the city, in front of the Operations Committee tonight, and they are recommending to include in there, and some of these have already been bid out. At the arena, the membrane roofing, doors, windows, makeup heat, and the locker rooms. At City Hall would be the shingles and the membrane roof and the air unit. When it says council chambers, that's actually the TV system and interactive TV and the website. And that was a total of $427. And then the other things they had besides permit and contingency is windows at the library. That was $125. The PD controlled access, that is mandated by the BCA. The PD flooring, the senior center roof, the upper level flooring. And so all of those together before contingency is $999, $731 as an estimate. So what the Operations Committee is recommending is that staff go out, actually secure actual quotes for each of these items and bring them back to the City Council for final approval or dismissal. So that's what we're looking at, is to approve those items into the building improvement project. and directing staff to go ahead and finalize the quotes and getting the quotes for them, and then bring those back to the city council.
And Vicky, I'm sorry, can I ask?
No, go ahead.
Question in reference to the additional items, those 5 things. Obviously, one of them, library windows, big dollars. This is all estimated dollars from a somewhere, or where did?
These are estimated staff or contractor,
Okay,
which we went out, like the library windows that were put in 1902. That's how old those windows are. So, yeah, there's some work to be done.
is there any state or county grants for police departments controlled access? Meaning, it's a safety issue, so I'm just curious, is there funding out there that would help offset some of that cost?
We haven't been able to find any for the secured access. Maybe they will come out with it in the future. What we did just this last year was we got a fairly substantial grant for updating all the body cameras and all of the camera systems. So because we were able to get that grant for that, we were able to maybe start working on the controlled access now.
Okay.
There has not been, they have not come up with any grants for us yet at this time.
And one of the things on, it says PD controlled access, but that's actually all of City Hall. That means the fire department, main offices,
So you're,
everything is gonna be controlled. Every individual will have their own keypad, or have their own ID to punch in. And so at any point in time, we know who enters the building, and if something disappears or gets turned on or anything, we can trace them back. So,
these are all preliminary, and you bring back final for us to determine if we truly want to
proceed with anything
execute them.
without final.
no, this is just operations, and
I understand, thank you.
the library windows have been kicked down the road so many times that
They're
I'm
bad.
surprised they're not.
We did apply for a library grant for the windows last year, and we were not successful.
Right.
Say that again, you applied?
We applied for a grant for the library, for the
Okay,
windows.
yeah.
Through.
Through-
We were not successful, because it wasn't really an improvement.
Was it through like the Great River Library
It
or
was from the state of Minnesota Department of Education.
education? Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Any other questions on what the operations committee covered
Do you need any
on
action?
that? Do I need a motion to approve the items? So
Motion
we
to-
can go out for, right?
Right.
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. Any other discussion? Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7C, authorized purchase of police equipment.
Chief Jensen has requested approval to purchase a firearm for the department due to the accessories. It is a rifle. The purchase requires approval by the city council. The accessories include a holographic sight and suppressor. The total cost of the purchase is $2,175.99. And so that's what we're looking for, to authorize the purchase of the SBR rifle with those accessories for that price.
Questions, concerns? Do I have a motion to authorize the purchase of the SBR rifle?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Scott, do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Brad. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7D, accept resignation of K-9.
So as Joe mentioned, K-9 Sonny is retiring. He served nearly 10 years for the K-9 to the department, and we're recommending that Sonny be sold to his handler, Chief Jensen, for $1. So that's what we're liking to do, is accept the resignation of Sonny and approve the sale for $1 to Chief Jensen.
Questions, concerns? I don't see a letter with his paw print, but that's,
I can get that.
okay.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we got a motion by Brad to accept the resignation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7E, approved tax increment payments, page 1, or February 1 of 2025.
So the TIF payments for our pay-as-you-go agreements are payable in August and February of each year. So this February payment is for the second half of 2024 taxes that were collected. The following payments are due and payable at this time. TIF 1-12, that's Felling Trailers. It's payment 10 of 18 for $29,439.53. This is when they built the office complex out at Felling Trailers. The second one is TIF 113 to Fajera. It's payment 4 of 18 for $66,568.96. This is for the paint building on the old racetrack. And TIF 114, it's the Savory Smokehouse, which is payable to Sauk Center Opportunities. That's payment 4 of 18 for $2,782.38. This is, like I said, this is the second half of 2024 taxes that are payable in February of '25. So we're looking to approve the TIF payable payments at this time.
Questions?
Just for clarification, the top two are both Felling properties, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And they're all 3 economic development
Yep.
projects.
Right.
Yep.
Any other questions, concerns? Otherwise, do I have a motion to approve the TIF pay-as-you-go payments?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7F, approve sales tax collection agreement with State of Minnesota.
So this sales tax collection agreement we have had in the past, this is, we pay the state of Minnesota to collect the Sauk Center sales tax and remit them to us. What's different from the prior agreements is the fee retained by the state has been reduced. It's now just a flat 1%. It used to be so much for the first dollars, and then it was a escalating scale. And now we get the payments 1 time per month rather than 2, which really is no significance to the city because we are setting this money aside for Trunk Highway 71. We currently have collected, since we started collecting on the 1st of January of 2020, $3.24 million. And so we're looking to approve the sales tax collection agreement with the state of Minnesota.
Questions, concerns? Do I have a motion to approve the sales tax collection agreement?
So moved.
Motion by Brad, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe.
Yep.
Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Unfinished business, 2020,
Oh, we got this.
what's that? 2025 Pine Birch Project. Page 30.
I see what you're doing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Have a quick little update as to where the project is at the moment. Designs come along very well. The actual plan set themselves may be done even by the end of the week or Monday, but it's very, very soon on those. After that's done, we'll circle back and start getting into gathering all the quantities for the project, which then leads into the cost estimate for the project, and then kind of finally is the actual project specifications. The plan is to bring this before you at the next council meeting. We will be showing on our new system here. I have to think about, I might be able to give you the PDF of the whole plan set so that you could look at it. Otherwise, there's a lot of plan sheets. We're not going to want to go through it all here tonight, but probably here I'll do something in a summary fashion that I can show to you and answer questions, that kind of thing. But I can make the whole plan set available to you. So I just wanted to go let you know that. And one thing that we had discussed earlier that we wanted to discuss in January is the issue of the phasing on the project. We currently have the project set up as 2 phases. And there is discussion about whether we should allow the potential for a contractor to perhaps bite off the entire project in one fell swoop. There's going to be a few that probably will be able to do that, but it is a possibility. So we just discussed, whether we want to even consider the potential of that as I start to prepare the project specifications. So I guess with that, I'll turn it back to you for questions or discussion about that particular topic.
I know that's one of the questions that I had asked, whether or not we could make this a 1 year. If someone would all of a sudden say they're short on jobs, they can come in with 3 crews and they could knock this out in a year, why would we turn that idea down? So that's the reason why it's even being mentioned now.
There are a lot of crews that were slow last fall too, that were laid off early, that they might be able to,
that's the reason why I think it, personally, you guys, more votes than just me sitting here. It's just, to me, I think it's something we should at least give them the option. If they can do it in 1 year.
Now, to be clear, there's a, there's a large area that would be disrupted. The bad news is a large area that's disrupted. The good news is it gets done quicker instead of having sort of one area and then the next year having an area immediately next to it. But there'll be a lot of disruption done all at once. So in reality, it would be, likely there's going to have to be a couple of utility crews working. So, a lot of the roads would be getting tore up sort of concurrently, to put in sewer, water, those kinds of things, come back with the streets. I mean, there will be a lot of disruption. So to be very clear about that, it's going to be the same amount of disruption. It just will be all at once versus spread out over a couple years. So
I do have a couple concerns, maybe more about safety, security, ability. When you do, now, first of all, I don't want to take away the option, right? If somebody says, I got no work and I can come in with 4 crews and get it done in 3 months, whatever. But that will require, in my mind, additional staff and aid from PUC, communication with the public, all sorts of things, because there's infrastructure, there's communication, there's utilities. I mean, I understand by taking it half, I'll call it, in 1 year, is you kind of work out your challenges in year 1, and year 2 typically goes a lot smoother. I mean, that's been at least our history. I mean, that's how we did Ash, and, 20 years ago.
There's utilities that
So,
will have to get moved and those kinds of things, and sometimes getting their schedules
right.
is, a bit of a challenge. The plans will be going out to those companies here very, very soon.
I guess the other question I might have is if you go into full, I'll just call it quadrant of Sauk Center construction mode, will all of the existing hydrants, all of the existing infrastructure, water, sewer that's currently there, all have to be brought to the top of the ground, temporaried, all at one time? And if so, are we able to meet the requirements for a fire that happens in, when you're taking care of a fire district in a small area, it's a lot easier than something that's 7 blocks in circumference. So I'm just making sure that if we do go that route, we've thought about the risk if something was to happen that, we don't know if it will, but I'm just wanting to make sure we can accommodate the needs of security and safety.
It's a very good point. The risk really is the water main, because we want to have fire protection. The sanitary is not really an issue. The providing them drinking water sources is not really an issue. We can do that. But if everything's tore up in terms of water main, all of a sudden we have a fairly large area that doesn't have
Capacity.
adequate fire protection for it. Now, I can write that in the specifications that the water portions thereof could potentially be, I'll figure out exactly how to write it, but could be phased in such that, sort of east or west side or north and south, something so that there's always the ability to get reasonable fire protection. That doesn't mean you might not have to go a little bit farther with the hoses, to get to the farthest places, but at least there'd be that ability to have that fire protection.
I just think things we need to think about. I don't think it's off, it's just good discussion.
One of the reasons why I'm thinking is if somebody's can come in and do it in 1 year, and that option is there, then the second year, it's only putting the second lift back on, and it's done. And they basically are gonna get 1 year break before Highway 71 comes rolling through, and then they're sitting there 3 years of putting up with construction. Where second lift is not disrupting them that much. So
I would say we would not want to, though, add on additional costs because we're trying to move it up into a 12-month window versus a 2-year. So if we limit our, potential.
But the bid is gonna be the bid. I don't know if it's gonna be an increased cost.
Yeah, the way I would see it is here's all the quantities. It's a 2-year project. If you wish to buy the only thing we're allowing them to do is if you wish to take it in one, then we'll allow you to do that. There'll probably be some caveats, all right, that'll come with that, but that really won't change their numbers. It is what it is. potentially we could even get cheaper numbers
Yep.
if they're really looking for work. You
Right.
know, and I have heard from at least one contractor that, well, actually two contractors that seem to be looking for work, that there might not be as much this year. And we're kind of seeing that in this region. We're actually even seeing that in the Twin Cities, that the numbers of projects are slightly down from the year before. Not quite sure why, but just maybe it's just happens to be a cycle, I'm not sure. But so they could be interested. I do think the numbers of people who could do that are going to be, you know, less than a handful that would even be able to
Right.
consider doing that.
Yeah, we
So-
don't want to push out the small guy that can only do it in 2 years, but
No.
if we do an option 1 and option 2, then we can actually compare what their bid numbers are gonna be, because the same outfit may bid on a 1-year plan and then also put the 2-year in, so he isn't thrown out of the book.
Well, I don't think, but you're not looking at writing the specs though that is options. You're just saying it's going to be one bid with, if you have the capacity and ability to do it, but yet meet this specific requirement if you're going to do it,
Correct.
this is,
That's
you're
correct.
allowed.
That's
Right, so it's not like an option one or
It's
two.
more of allowing them, we would sort of, the only thing would be an option, we'd have an option on completion dates. We'd
Yeah.
allow them, if they choose to do it in 1 year, you can do that, but now here are your completion dates if you choose to do it in 1 year.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that's really the option, is just their completion dates.
I think maybe I have a question for Ben. Ben, are you comfortable and capable of handling a large project for 1 year versus trying to get it done in 2, or do you have any feelings in reference to that?
I think if the bid numbers come in favorable, that a contractor can come in and do it in 1 year, I'm comfortable with working with them to get it done in 1 year.
Okay,
I'm definitely good with that, yeah.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So, what's consensus, or if someone wants to make a motion or whatever, we have to give Keith some guidance as far as,
Yeah, I
how
don't think
he
you need a
writes
motion,
up
if you
his-
just consensus, it would be fine.
Yeah, I guess my thought is if they have the capabilities and are willing to go with that, I mean, we can certainly give them the opportunity to do it in 1 year, but with the expectations that it will be a 2-year project, but again, them notifying us, they're, indicating that, yeah, we can accomplish this in 1.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
they have the options, at least in my mind.
Yep.
And we
It's
we
kind
have
of
the
where I'm
options.
leaning, so,
Same here.
if they all of a sudden got 2 extra crews sitting around and they can come in and get it done, go for it.
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
okay,
That's all I need. Any other questions for
Nope.
me?
Nope.
Okay, thank you so much.
thank you.
I did want to add on that project, we are stepping up our communication outreach to the members, more so than we have in the past, whether it's Facebook or newsletters or website, or more of a, maybe a weekly or semi-weekly update on, or bi-weekly update on what's to be expected versus what is. Because I know they're out there talking individually to people on scene, but the general population doesn't know necessarily what's going on, so.
Right. And as far as when the construction's going, I think the last few projects that we have had, we haven't really had any major hiccups as far as the people in the work zone not being told of what's going on.
It's people outside the zone that want to know
Yeah,
what's going on.
they want to know more than the people that are actually on it. So, they're,
We'll
because
work on
they're,
that.
yeah, so. Trunk Highway 71 reconstruction project update?
Just a little information on Highway 71. You know that the ADA study has been completed. You've probably seen, I think it's Bolton Mink out there digging holes in the boulevards, doing the archaeological study right now. The city plans, our plans for 6th, 7th, and 8th connection onto MnDOT were provided to MnDOT. Keith sent those over there. We're kind of looking at those as for their connections, and then there's part of the stormwater we're taking off Highway 71. They wanted to see how that was being accommodated in our 2025 project. They have a solicitation out for the design team, and so they're looking for the design team and engineer design for the project. And the plan is to select a team in the next couple of months, and also the public engagement work to begin in the spring, and somehow MnDOT got me volunteered on those 2 committees, so I'll be involved in that as well. The project is slated for MnDOT fiscal '28, and as you know, MnDOT fiscal '28 starts on July 1st of '27. At this point, we don't know if the actual construction would happen starting then, or if that would just be a contract year or not. The potential city cost is being updated due to rising costs, and this is important for us to know because we have a maximum sales tax collection restriction. And so if we start approaching that number, we might want to look at going back to the legislature, not increasing the number of years, but just increasing the total dollar amount we're allowed to collect before it expires. But we'll keep an eye on that. Once we go out to bid, we can only, it has to go to to an election year, and it has to be approved by the legislature. So as you know, that took some time. And, but we'll work on that, and I'll keep an eye on what that might look like. So I don't have any action for the council. I just think that it's good to keep updated on what's happening with that project.
Can you refresh me, what's the maximum amount we've got currently?
Pardon me?
For the maximum sales tax collection amount, what's that dollar
We had
amount?
10 million.
10 million, okay.
Because at the time, we thought our estimate was going to be about 4. So, that's,
Since it's been put off,
because we
it's 3
started
times
this in
that?
2016.
Is that it?
So things change.
Right. So, any other questions?
Does this have anything to do with the bridge on the dam, or is it just the,
They are, the plan for MinDOT is to redeck the bridge, but that's all within their section, and they said that that's going to be a separate contract than the actual reconstruct of the highway. So that's kind of separate than the reconstruct project. Because when they redeck the dam, we have the whole issue of 2 lanes versus 1 lane with access to the north end and emergency vehicles and a possible detour and all of that. So they're kind of handling that separately.
okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, then move on. 8C, 8th Street Storm Pond.
So the Operations Committee also met with the owner of the 8th Street Storm Pond regarding the disposition of the pond with the option to assume ownership. The owner of that property owns all the way from Highway 71, all the way through the storm pond and up through his house, and he is interested in selling off, or lot splitting that and selling it off. We did float around some prices that he's thinking that he is interested in selling it for. And he said he also has people that are interested in purchasing it. So the Operations Committee is like, well, you're gonna need a lot split either way, so they're gonna proceed with getting the property split into 2. And they're gonna go talk amongst themselves and see what is their final price. They kind of have an idea. They're basing it on what the assessment might be, what it might cost to build a new garage, and they've got different things, but they didn't have a solid number for us yet. But once we get that lot split in here, hopefully they'll have a number that feel is solid, and at that point, the city can decide, are we interested in taking ownership of it, or should we just let them sell it to somebody else? Someone else will have a garage for storage. If we take ownership of it, we would probably move the garage down to Public Works or something, but in the meantime, it's not going to affect our easement. So we'll have something in the future, probably in the form of a lot split, and once that's parcels in 2 pieces, then decide on whether we have an interest in it or not.
All right. Questions? Okay. Move on to new business. 9A, Greater Minnesota Housing Infrastructure Grant.
So the program guidelines for the Greater Minnesota Housing Infrastructure Grant Program has been released. I believe it was released last week. This program provides grant funding for infrastructure that supports housing. This might be an option for the city if we wanted to look for phase 2 of the author's edition. At this point, the EDA had thought that there's 19 lots, once there's 5 left, we would embark on phase 2. We're not quite there yet, but if we get grant funding to help do it, why not? So I'm going to take it to the EDA and have them review it to see if we want to apply for that grant. The second thing was we did get an application for tax increment financing for housing has been submitted, and the EDA will be looking at that. And then we also heard that Murray Lane, they want to dedicate that as public. I met with them. At this point, that road is not to the specifications to take it as a public road at this time. And they're going to go out and they're supposed to provide me with the design of how it was built, and we'll figure out what it would cost for them to bring it up to public specifications if that is what we're going to do. But I said that we would not request it, we accept it in its current state because it's not built to that commercial standard. So, no action tonight, just updates.
On the east side of the bank. Minnesota National.
It's that 5-ton road right on the east side there by
Got
the
it.
bank into Walmart and stuff.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I don't think that road's even a 5-ton road.
That's what
It's
it says
probably
on the
less
sign.
than that.
Sign says 5-ton.
Well, that
Oh, I could
doesn't
put
mean
that up.
nothing, but,
We have a difference of opinion on how it was constructed, and so we requested that some corings of the road to see what's really under there.
okay. Application for housing TIF, Main Streeters 3.
That was the same thing, I just, I went through all three of those just now.
Oh, okay. You covered all that.
I did.
I
Sorry.
My
I got
check
going.
marks weren't going fast enough, okay.
Is that a new apartment complex that's looking at coming somewhere?
It's the Main Streeters Phase 3, so it
So-
would be north of the Main Streeters apartment building and south of the Kate's Estates building in that
So-
5 acres there.
North on Main?
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else? Otherwise, we will go to the consent agenda. We have a schedule of claims of a total November checks of $366,963.24.
And then I have the claim, did she put a copy of the claims on there? I had emailed them out to you
No.
previously. I apologize that they didn't make it in the packet, but we had a family emergency that had to be dealt with. So the schedule of claims is the unpaid claims of $176,924.17 with paid claims of $500 for a total of $177,424.17.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't have that.
She didn't put them in, I emailed them out to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions about that? Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Scott, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 4 in favor, none against. We have no informational items,
I have one thing to add.
okay?
In your consent agenda, I don't think you mentioned it, they have the acknowledgement of all the 2024 contributions that all the different organizations and people have made to the city. That is being published in the Herald actually tomorrow. And so you can see that there's some very generous individuals in the community that have provided funding to the city. One additional thing, and it's not really a contribution to the city, it's kind of a contribution of the city. We went back and just kind of tried to get a handle on exactly what is the city cost, whether in kind or actual costs, as we support the different events in the community. And we came up with like over $36,000 in kind for waived fees on park rentals and staffing time and street sweeping and all the different things that go into having these events in the community. So it's just something, kind of a nod out to the city, actually, for providing that contribution.
Okay, any questions about that? Hearing nothing. Now, I think we reached the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Brad. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.